Interviews. The Symbolic Surveillance Society. Die-hardman. The world before the Stranding, the online service industry was huge, possibly the biggest of them all. People wanted their lives to be smooth and stress-free, and countless companies were happy to oblige. Customers will provide information about themselves, browsing history, purchase history, and that kind of thing. In return, they get a pleasant, personalized internet experience. It wasn't anything like the dystopian surveillance state people used to worry about in the 20th century. Predictive advertising, customized health tips, that sort of thing. The internet transformed our lives in many ways. Just gonna keep doing this. Sorry for the people who wanted to stream. I guess the internet's not going to be working for me, so I will just continue this as a let's play. So here we go. The internet transformed our lives in many ways for the better, but not everyone was happy. People started to worry that it was encroaching on people's freedoms. The price we paid for so much convenience was constant monitoring and abdication of control. We had become members of a symbiotic surveillance society. Naturally, there are people who have similar concerns about the chiral network. They're a pretty sizable faction that wants nothing to do with it whatsoever. They said, I can't help but feel that they're being naive. There's no such thing as a free lunch. Connectivity and convenience have to come at a price. What's more, the stakes are a whole lot higher nowadays. We are not talking about a simple trade-off between privacy and convenience. It's the network or bust, survival or extinction, as far as humanity is concerned. Yeesh. The Evo Devo unit. Department's lab. It seems a rather significant breakthrough has been achieved back at headquarters. They successfully integrated an Evo Devo unit in the chiral printer. In case you're not familiar with the term, Evo Devo refers to evolutionary development biology. Your genes, most genes, dinosaur genes, the genes of every living being are virtually identical and yet were developed into such radically different organisms. Thus a question arises, why did such desperate life arise from the self-sustaining building blocks? Building blocks. Evo Devo was the field of study that sought to solve that mystery, to lay bare the secrets of evolution. Before the advent of Evo Devo, it was thought that in order to reconstruct a dinosaur, it would require a sample of its DNA. However, thanks to the technology's ability to extrapolate from existing data, we could, with correct stimulus, grow a dinosaur from DNA of living organisms. Anyways. It's a dinosaur, we're gonna make it. We could, in essence, create the process by which dinosaurs evolved from primeval life forms. The Evo Devo unit applies the same principles to the problem of information and object reconstruction. With the help of the chiral network, we take incomplete data and indeed incomplete objects and reproduce their complete forms. This data can then be fed into the chiral printer. Voila. Partial data yields a finished product. The tech isn't viable for. Product isn't viable. The tech isn't viable for everyday use just yet, but when it is, it will be incalculably benefit to our research and bring our reconstruction efforts forward by a matter of decades. The Higgs particles. Higgs Monaghan? Higgs Monaghan, YS. I know the name. The former leader of Primitive Courier Organization. As I recall, such served a large region in the West and was instrumental in providing continued support to the people living there. But as we were so far apart, bridges struggled to maintain any measure of influence over the operations. It probably didn't help that the separatist movement has always enjoyed strong support in that territory. In the wake of growing violence by the demons, Demons. We were shocked to learn that Higgs himself was at their head. What to make of this strange development? Why on earth would a man who once commanded a group devoted to American Reconstructionism suddenly pledge himself to the cause of American destruction? His name only compounds the insult. Have you heard the Higgs particle, also known as the God particle? It is associated with Higgs field, that which gave all the particles their mass. Without it, atoms would fly apart, and the matter would not exist as we know it. In other words, its very presence prevents mindless destruction. Cosmic irony indeed. Mama has something to say about the chiral network too. In the way the chiral network makes us use of the beach to allow us to travel through time. See, sending large amounts of data takes a large amount of time, as you should expect. The thing about beaches, well, time doesn't pass the same way in them as it does out here. Might not even pass at all. Think about it. In light, the light from the stars in the sky we see produced thousands and thousands of years ago. Routing data through the beach is just like jumping to a point earlier in that journey, thereby cutting it shorter, much shorter. Just imagine massive amounts of data transferred almost instantaneously. That's what we were trying to achieve with chiral network in a nutshell. In theory, the network allows us to reconstruct old data that would otherwise be lost, and to do so with fragmented resources using what's known as Evo-Devo analysis. We could take the finger bone of a dinosaur, say, extrapolate that from that not only the dinosaur's form, but its composition, internal, external, even its thought process to a degree. Anything's possible with the chiral computing. In other words, we won't just be able to unite a nation, we'll be able to reclaim everything we lost in the Death Stranding. Even more even. Theoretically, we can go back as far as birth of the planet and beyond. Thanks to the beach, we'll be able to compile all that data in one place, reduce the processing time even for the most complex analysis of efficiency zero. Analysis to effectively zero. Efficiency zero. No efficiency. No. Preppers. When I was a little girl, my father told me that the preppers were people who decided long ago that they couldn't trust their nation to be there for them anymore. That the bonds between us had grown weak long before the Death Stranding. We once had a network spanning the whole wide world that could send items from anywhere to anywhere, connect anyone with anything, but still we were isolated, still we were alone. Some liked it that way, even wanted more. They wanted walls along their borders, wanted to turn away refugees and outsiders. Some even wanted new nations all their own. They began to see the states as an enemy of their freedom, not a protector of it. The ones most far gone, they don't entrust the country to defend them if something went really wrong. War, terrorism, natural disaster, you name it. So they built shelters stuffed full of supplies in preparation for the worst. And then the worst happened, the Death Stranding. America ceased to exist, and their shelters became their homes, where they would live and where they would die. But while they prepared, they hadn't prepared to live there forever. This is why they wound up relying on us, carriers, so heavily. My father and I didn't want to go back to the old America. We didn't want a country that pushed people apart. We wanted to brought them together, that allowed them to support one another, and that was what we tried to work toward. The lake at Ground Zero. Fine. When I first laid eyes on the lake here at Ground Zero, I was blown away by the sheer size of it. I never imagined anything could be so huge. This was just after Death Stranding, and not many people had seen the craters up close yet. Back when I was still living with my parents and my brother on the East Coast, explosion like nothing the world had ever seen before tore a gaping hole in the heart of America. There were all kinds of rumors floating about at that time that it was a meteor, that it was a nuke dropped by another country. It was just a kid. I was just a kid. But even I could tell the adults didn't have a clue, so you can imagine how I felt. And then we found out there had been other explosions, not just here in America, but all the world over. By the time we learned there were void outs and what void outs were, The country was pretty much done, but hey, that was then and this is now. Things are looking up. I just got told my kid brother's still alive. Word is he's heading up. Oh no. Word is he's heading up a corpse disposal team in Capital Knot City, handling his stuff well enough to get it packed for the second expedition. 3 more years and he'll be out here with me. Can't wait to see him again. Rip. Forever interview the engineer. My horizons aren't exactly broad. That said, I'm not completely cut from the outside world. I knew what bridges was and that they were trying to rebuild America. But when you're living down here, it's hard to see how that's got anything to do with you and yourself. Am I right? My folks holed up in the shelter after the Death Stranding, had a kid, and raised him in the silence of paradise. The slice, might have been their slice of paradise, not that silence of paradise. Ugh. Together we lived off whatever Fragile Express was kind enough to bring our way. They told me about the good old days, but I've never had much of an imagination. Couldn't see how a country long ago was any concern of me and mine. As I figured the Fragile Express was happy to keep bringing us stuff we didn't need to anybody else, and we certainly didn't need America, whatever that even was. But then one day I was looking at part of this machine my dad put together, and he was an engineer too, and I noticed something. It said "Made in the USA" right there in tiny print. Got me to think about America might not exist anymore, but the stuff Americans built is still around, making our lives a little bit easier even now. You could say that all the country lives on and its works, kinda, like how my folks lived on into me. They died a while back. Anyway, if they were American, I guess that makes me American too. And maybe the shelter a part of it all. Once I realized that, I started pouring my heart into building stuff to help you guys put the country back together. Good man. Alright, the Craftsman. 1 year ago, personal shelter. Terrorists have been at it again lately. You heard, right, about how they've been sneaking in and out of cities disguised as Fragile Express couriers? We'll have another disaster on our hands at this rate, but it's not like we can just cut them out. We need Fragile's people to keep on doing what they're doing. We rely on those guys for a lot. Though maybe we shouldn't. I hear they're transporting weapons now. Why they'd be so stupid, I can't imagine. Spreading stuff around that kills in a world where the dead are ticking BT bombs. Sure, terrorists are a threat, and mules are a royal pain in the butt. But you know what Genius figured, escalation was the way to go when we all knew where it leads. We need weapons, no tools, that can take down the bad guys without killing them. We need the hardwire in circulation gone yesterday. We can't keep folks from dying in accidents. Can't keep folks from dying in accidents or getting sick. Can't keep them from dying, period. But the deaths we can put off, we ought to. Violence isn't just ugly, it's darn near suicidal in this day and age. This is why I'm looking to make a bunch of less than lethal gear in hopes that'll prevent a few idiots from getting themselves and others killed. Good man. Okay, man, but good man. Alright. Journal 1. Today I made a delivery to a shelter near Middle Knot City. It was my longest trip to date. New personal bets. Back when I was starting out, people tried to warn me about the life, saying it was dangerous for prepper youngins to make runs, and that no one would ever really trust me. What I was supposed to do? Kids without parents need to eat too, and it's not like I had any skills. 2 arms, 2 legs, and a whole lot of grit. That's all I had to offer. Worked out okay so far. I bring people what they need, and in return, they do right by me. And the more deliveries I make, the more orders I get. Never a porter around when you need one, as long as you don't mess up too badly. someone ought to throw you a bone. Helps that I've got a sixth sense for BTs too. Pretty rare, but it's probably one of the reasons why I get so much work. Sometimes people praise me, tell me doing society a service by helping my fellow man. Couldn't say the factors into it. I'd sooner keep to myself if I could, but gotta survive somehow. I'm sure as hell ain't gonna manage by myself. Whenever another prepper's kicked the bucket, I went to deliver his medicine as usual this morning, but I guess it was pretty darn late. Poor guy wasn't just dead, but on the verge of going necro. Wasn't no time to take him to an incinerator, so I had to dump him in a nearby BT territory, rather than leaving him to pop, especially since my own shelter is close by. Gotta look out for number one. When I dumped him, though, it's just before he popped. It was like I could feel the BTs reacting to the corpse. Saw the beach, too. Strangest thing, but I felt it before, when I first disposed of someone. Station was stronger this time, though. No doubt about it. I don't know if this means I've got dooms, but I'm started to think there's something special about me. Delivery outfit out west heard of my BT sensing abilities and has expressed an interest in bringing me on board. Seems they operated outside Bridges' sphere of influence, and they want to leverage my experience and know-how to expand their operations. Could be interesting. It's funny, I started to make runs out of necessity to stay alive, but that's all changed. I'm an altruist now. I live to help other people. Preppers around these parts rely on me. Hell, they wouldn't last 5 minutes without me. What would my daddy say if he could see me now, He taught me man's his own keeper, and here I am, part of a community, working with other people, bringing the world together. Daddy always told me that the wide, wide world was dangerous, that we had to stay in our shelter and spend our whole life there. Die there? Well, forget that. Communities, that's what it's all about. A buddy of mine died today. He was out in the mountains on a delivery, and it was so boring, so foggy. So foggy. I guess he lost sight of the trail. He called me asking for help, but then the line went dead. I saw the void out from here. Nearly blinded me. Guess he wandered into BT territory. That's not many of us porters left these days, but not many you could trust to get a job done anyway. Folks quitting or dying or going mule. Attrition's attrition's not great. We're to keep on going and need better equipment, and someone else can track BTs. I can still manage sometimes. But my power's getting weaker. I can feel it. I just wish I knew what to do, because at this rate, I'm done. We all are. This last one's Fragile's umbrella and suit. You think the thing Fragile carries is umbrella? I can see why you jumped to that conclusion, but with its shape and all but you're wrong. If it's any consolation, I thought it was an umbrella too. At first, it's actually some kind of navigational device that Fragile came up with herself. I don't pretend to understand the theory behind it. I'm just told it factors chiral density across beaches and plots coordinates for her jumps. Fragile's got some kind of dooms that lets her move from beach to beach the way she tells it. She kind of clears her mind and lets her powers do the rest. Maybe it's something similar with the spikes on her suits. When Fragile senses chiralian concentrations, they pop out. I'm not sure if she'd be able to tell otherwise. It's like an unconscious reaction to spikes only retract when chiral densities decrease. But who knows? Names and theories are just ways of coping with things we don't really understand. Same with visual indications of the intangible, maybe. All I can say is that Fragile's umbrella and spikes seem to help her with her hone her powers. Oof. Got 2 new records. Low Roar. This was Low Roar's second album, and the record which Hideo Kojima picked up on a visit to Iceland when the band first came to his attention. His driver at the time, a member of a band known as Icebergs. Iceland's Joy Division took him to a record store where the Lore War was playing in the background. Right from the moment Mr. Kojima first heard the band, he wanted to use their music in one of his games. Death Stranding proved the perfect opportunity to do so. It's classic Hideo Kojima: find something or someone you like, and then create something together with them. The Unknown Man's Journal, Part 1. Secret confessions of a certain someone. Access the interview menu to learn more. Which I did. Bikes! Secret bikes. I'm looking forward to that. A lot of talking.